This NHTS Academy module is going to look at BESTMILE in the 2009 NHTS vehicle file, and in particular, how it was computed. BESTMILE is what we informally refer to as the best estimate of annual vehicle mileage. It takes all available information and creates a single estimate for each vehicle. The NHTS survey collects a self-reported vehicle estimate, known as ANMiles. There's also an odometer reading collected during the survey process, and there are driver characteristics in the person file. Whatever pieces exist for each record are fed into a model, and a BESTMILE estimate is computed. So let's look at the history of BESTMILE on the NHTS. In the 1995 and 2001 surveys, NHTS collected 2 odometer readings, which were used to create an annualized odometer estimate. Basically, this was a simple model taking the average daily mileage computed using the odometer readings and the dates of those readings, accounting for seasonality and day-of-the-week effects, and annualizing the estimate using a regression model. Now, in addition to this simple estimate, modeling in 2001 used that annualized value along with self-reported miles and information on the primary driver to create the BESTMILE variable. But in 2009, the data situation changed, with only a single odometer reading being collected. So the obvious question became how to make up for the loss of that second reading. So in 2009, a temporary variable for odometer miles was created. This variable used age of the vehicle and whether the vehicle was purchased by the survey respondent new or used. A variable detailing whether a vehicle was new or used isn't on the dataset, but the length of time the variable was owned by the household is. So the general rule was that if there was more than a 2-year gap between how long the household owned the vehicle and the vehicle age, the car was labeled used. Otherwise, it was considered new. Next, curves of self-reported miles by vehicle age were created in order to get a sense for how to apportion the odometer reading out in each year. These curves were created for both new and used vehicles. Then, the curves were used to get a percentage of overall miles per vehicle in the current year. So if a vehicle was purchased new, only the new curve was used to determine the percentage. Otherwise, the new curve was used up until the household bought the vehicle, then the used curve was used. Now let's take a look at an example involving a used vehicle. Say that vehicle was 5 years old, with 60,000 miles, with the vehicle being owned by the household for 2 years. So first we use years 1, 2, and 3 on the new vehicle curve, and add to that years 4 and 5 on the used vehicle curve. The percentage in year 5 is 18.4% of the total of all 5 years, with the odometer miles value coming out to 11,050 miles. So now let's look at the data available in the 2009 NHTS vehicle file. For 62% of the approximately 310,000 vehicles in the overall sample, all the data is present. Odometer readings, self-reported VMP per vehicle, what we called ANMiles, and information on the primary driver. 17% of vehicles are only missing an odometer reading. An additional 10% of the sample is missing both an odometer reading and information on the primary driver, while 6% are missing combinations of those. Now, one thing to note in this process is that 5% in the light blue is what's called an out-of-scope vehicle. These include things like other trucks, RVs, and LEVs, which are included in the vehicle file but tend to have usage patterns that aren't consistent with the primary types, which include cars, vans, pickups, and SUVs. So now let's move to the modeling phase. The modeling phase used 6 calculation methods taking into account however much data was available for each particular vehicle. These methods included 5 primary models using least squares regression, with the 6th method being a simple computation. This video is going to take a closer look at the first 3 models, which cover 89% of the sample vehicles. The other 3 methods can be detailed in the BESTMILE documentation, available at nhts.ornl.gov. The first model used the 62% of vehicles with all available data. The model was in the form seen above, with BESTMILE estimated using self-reported ANMiles and driver characteristics such as education, age and gender, geographic components such as MSA size and census division, and household characteristics such as household size and driver-to-vehicle ratio. For Model 2, a model was created to estimate the 17% of vehicles with everything but a usable odometer reading. The model is the same as that described in Model 1, simply excluding that adjusted annual odometer estimate. So moving on to Model 3, This model involves the 10% of vehicles with self-reported VMT, but no odometer reading or information on the primary driver. This model simply used N-miles to estimate BESTMILE. So now that we have our model estimates, the last thing done was to adjust them to a fixed time frame. This was done to help the Energy Information Administration compute their fuel use and MPG estimates, which are also found in the NHTS vehicle file, and take advantage of information in BESTMILE. As described up to this point, BESTMILE estimates cover the year ending with the survey date of the household. In order to make them more consistent across all households, the estimates were adjusted so that they reflect April 2008 to March 2009. To do this, the monthly VMT estimates found in traffic volume trends were used. Basically, the adjusted BESTMILE equals the estimated BESTMILE times the TVT adjustment factor. This adjustment factor is the annual miles driven from April 2008 to March 2009 over the annual miles driven, according to TVT, for the year ending with each surveyed household's interview. Finally, here's a quick look at the average BESTMILE estimates for the four main vehicle types: autos, vans, SUVs, and pickups. All types have average annual estimates of 11,000 to 13,000 miles per year. We hope you've enjoyed this look at the BESTMILE variable. Thanks for watching.